Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back. So, today's story is a little unusual, not emotional in the usual way, not fully scary either. It's the kind of story that makes you wonder afterward wait, what exactly happened there? And honestly, those are my favorite kinds of stories. This happened to a man named Vihan. Now, Vihan worked as a photographer. Freelance life, unstable timings, random travel plans, too much coffee, and too little sleep. And one thing about Vihan, he loved exploring old parts of cities, not famous tourist places, the forgotten areas, narrow lanes, old cafes, bookstores nobody visited anymore. He believed every old street carried stories, and honestly, maybe he was right. One winter evening, Vihan was in Kolkata for a photography project. It had rained lightly that day, and the city looked beautiful in that slow, melancholic way only old cities can. Yellow lights reflecting on wet roads, trams moving lazily, tea stalls releasing steam into cold air. After finishing work late, Vihan decided to walk instead of taking a cab. Now, if you have ever wandered alone at night in an unfamiliar city, you know the feeling. Everything feels slightly cinematic, slightly mysterious. He walked through a narrow lane lined with old buildings. Most shops were already closed, only a few lights remained on. And that's when he noticed it, a tiny antique shop standing between two buildings. Strange thing was, he was almost sure that the shop had not been there earlier. The signboard outside simply said memories bought and sold. Bihan laughed softly, very dramatic, he muttered. But honestly, something about that place pulled him in immediately. Warm yellow light glowed inside, old clocks ticked softly, shelves were filled with strange objects, vintage cameras, letters tied with ribbons, old watches, music boxes. The shop smelled faintly of old paper and rain, and behind the counter sat an elderly man wearing round glasses. He looked up slowly and smiled. You're late, the man said calmly. Vihan frowned slightly. Sorry, the shop usually closes before midnight. Now, honestly, the sentence sounded normal, but something about the way he said it felt strange, as if he had been expecting Vihan specifically. Vihan walked around curiously. Every object inside looked oddly personal, not decorative, personal. A cracked wristwatch, a child's shoe, an old diary, and somehow each item felt like it carried emotion. You collect antiques? Vihan asked casually. The old man smiled faintly. Not antiques, memories. Vihan laughed awkwardly. Interesting business. The old man looked directly at him and said quietly, people leave behind more memories than belongings. Now, at this point, most people would probably leave, but Vihan stayed, mostly because curiosity had completely taken over. Then suddenly, his eyes stopped at something on a shelf near the corner, an old camera, black body, silver edges, slightly scratched near the lens. Vihan froze instantly because he recognized it. It looked exactly like the camera his father used to own years ago, the same camera that disappeared after his father's death. Slowly, he picked it up. His hands suddenly felt cold. This? He whispered. The old man looked at him carefully. You recognize it? Vihan swallowed. My father had one exactly like this. The old man smiled strangely. Some things find their way back. Now, honestly, Vihan's heartbeat had become uneven. He turned the camera over slowly and then saw it. Tiny initials scratched near the bottom. AR, his father's initials. For a moment, the entire shop felt unreal. How is this here? He asked immediately. But instead of answering directly, the old man said softly, sometimes people leave pieces of themselves behind before disappearing. Vihan's mind raced. None of this made sense. He checked his phone, no signal. Strange. Then suddenly, somewhere inside the shop, an old radio started playing faint music by itself. The lights flickered once, then stabilized again. And honestly, the atmosphere had changed completely now. The shop no longer felt cozy, it felt unsettling. Vihan placed the camera down carefully. I think I should leave. The old man nodded calmly. As you wish. Then, just before Vihan reached the door, the man spoke again. You never asked what your father wanted to tell you before he died. Vihan stopped walking instantly because nobody knew about that. Years ago, before his father passed away, suddenly from a heart attack, they had fought badly, and afterward, Vihan spent years carrying guilt silently. Slowly, he turned around. How do you know that? The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed toward the camera and said quietly, some memories stay unfinished. At this point, fear had fully entered Vihan's body. Not loud fear, the cold kind. He grabbed the door handle quickly and stepped outside into the lane. Cold wind hit his face instantly, and then he froze. The shop behind him was gone, completely gone. Only a locked, empty wall stood there. No lights, no signboard, nothing. Vihan stared at the space in disbelief. Rainwater dripped quietly from rooftops nearby. A stray dog barked somewhere far away, but the shop had vanished completely. The next morning, he returned to the same lane in daylight, trying to convince himself he imagined everything. But local shopkeepers looked confused when he asked about the antique store. There has never been any shop there, one man replied. Vihan laughed nervously, but I was literally inside it last night. The shopkeeper shrugged. Only an abandoned building has been there for years. And honestly, Vihan never fully understood what happened that night. But one thing changed afterward. For the first time in years, he visited his father's old room, not with guilt, not with anger, just quietly. And maybe that strange little shop gave him something he needed all along. Not answers, closure. So tell me honestly, my dear listeners, would you enter a shop that suddenly appeared in an empty lane at night? Do you believe places can carry memories? And what unfinished memory still lives quietly inside you? If you enjoyed this mysterious story, write more stories in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Dear Listeners. Till next time, if you ever see a shop that feels strangely familiar, maybe look carefully before entering.